I think as long as I have the opportunity to kind of lead and develop and create new, then I'm in a good spot. So those are kind of the things that I'm, the yeah, the day that I can't do those things is maybe the day that I start thinking about a change.
Welcome to Future Driven. I'm Adam Lejeune-Kopp, and on this podcast, we talk about challenges and wins in business. See the vision, drive the future. Welcome to episode 29 of the Future Driven podcast. I'm excited to have Eric Turner, the Director of Growth Marketing at Cotopaxi. Eric, thanks for jumping on today.
Thanks, man. How's it going?
Yeah, really good. We got connected by a former colleague of mine, and I assume yours as well. And we're up here in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
You're down in Oregon?
I am. I'm in Bend, Oregon. So not to be confused with the Portlanders side.
Yeah.
I'm on the other side of the mountains on the much cooler and, better people side.
How far away from the ski hill are you?
If the sun's out, not far. I think it took me 30 minutes to get up to Mount Bachelor the other day on a Saturday, holiday weekend. So
nice.
30 to 45 minutes, depending on traffic, to get to the official ski hill. And then we got all the backcountry and touring stuff all over the place. So
cool.
Not too far.
Ski or snowboard?
A little bit of both. I ski primarily now just because I'm old. I spend a lot of time doing sports in one direction. So anything that requires me to go side to side hurts. And I just remember like when I was learning how to snowboard and you catch an edge and you just eat it. I just remember that being really painful. And I'm like, God, at 37, that sounds way more painful than it was at, it was painful at 18. It's gotta be magnitudes more of pain at this point.
Well, I've only skied, so
okay.
I can't really relate, but it seems like a much more elegant way to get down the mountain, in my opinion.
I forgot how hard it is too. It's like I came home Saturday, there happened to be nobody here, and I think I got 12 runs in, which our runs are 8 to 12 minutes here. I think they're 3,000 feet. I don't know. Yeah. And I was dead. I went to bed at 7:30. I was like, I'm going to bed. My wife was like hassling me about, how are you tired from skiing? All you do is go downhill. I'm like, well, I don't know. I am.
It's
that
hard
might
work.
be true, but I'm exhausted.
All right. Well, Eric, I'd love to hear kind of about your career, the Director of Growth Marketing, what you are today. That seems a pretty interesting position that we'll dig into, but kind of give us your background. Where'd you go to school? Where'd you start? Kind of how did it go down?
Yeah. So my background's pretty diverse, actually, a little bit different than traditional. I went to Auburn University down in Alabama, swam at Auburn for a couple of years. So I went there. Everyone's like, I'm from Ohio. Everyone's like, why'd you go to Auburn? I went there to swim. I had I wasn't like, it's because they have a good program now. I was to swim. I ended up getting a degree in apparel merchandising, production, and design, somewhat because I did a little bit of like eBay. I graduated high school in 2002 when the vintage t-shirt thing was coming on, and we were slinging t-shirts on eBay. So somehow ended up in that major. Moved up to Chicago and started my first sort of career track in actually working for an events company. If you're familiar with Chicago, they had an event in Seattle, the Hot Chocolate 5K, 15K. At the time was a startup. We had a retail store, and I was managing all the apparel. So I was buying all the goodie bags. I was buying all of if you've ever done like a race, you get to the expo and you can buy a zip up or a shirt or whatever. Right. And I was managing all those buys and sort of doing the whole thing from design to, planning to purchasing and the logistics of getting all that from factories. And then I kind of one of the things I loved about that was like the ability to take purchase data and use it to inform the next buy. And the problem there was like, it took a year to figure that out. when we would have the next race, we take all the sales data from this year and figure out what sold, where we should improve our buys for the next year. So a friend of mine was kind of like, hey, you should check out this thing called paid search, because like you can do that, depending on the client in an instant, in 5 minutes, you can have statistically significant data to make a decision, which is a touchy subject. But and so I started at Resolution Media, ironically, same place that Allison was. We never, we never crossed paths in the early days. I think she was out before I went in, which was like October 2014-ish, when I started at Resolution. And I was a day one search coordinator. Like I walked in, I think I had memorized how to write a VLOOKUP for my interview because somebody had said it was like important. You need to know what a VLOOKUP is in Excel. And then we ended up talking about fantasy football for the whole interview. So, kind of started as a coordinator and didn't know what a CPC was or what share of voice or impressions were. I knew nothing about the industry really. Yeah. But really felt like I was kind of at my home, just the dynamic nature of like the problem solving. Resolution at the time was just like, it was such a great place to be for a while. It still is. It was just at the time that I was there, it was just such a great place to be because it was growing so fast. We had so many smart people working there. We had leaders that really just dumped gasoline on sparks, and really kind of paved the way for a lot of people. I kind of I always joked that Google's Chicago office is just like Resolution West. A lot of really smart people kind of came out of there, and still have the opportunity to stay in touch with and reach out to all the time when I have questions because they know a heck of a lot. Resolution eventually kind of within the Omnicom family, I moved into PhD, where I worked across the travel vertical a bit to start, leading the search practice for a few of the travel clients, working on the search practice for a few of the travel clients. And then we had this pandemic thing, that really tightened the belt on the travel. Sure. The agency PhD, I think as a whole was able to morph a pretty good amount, and change where my role morphed into being head of search for PhD.
So is PhD a agency in Chicago?
Yeah, PhD is an Omnicom shop. So they're, Resolution and PhD are both Omnicom shops. So they're worldwide. They've got offices everywhere, all over the globe. And they're a little bit more of, they started as a little more of a traditional agency, planning, strategy. And then Resolution kind of integrated into PhD and OMD and those kinds of things to bring digital expertise into the traditional shops. And that morph was what brought me into PhD.
Okay.
So I was leading up the search practice there, working closely with the Center of Excellence. I'd worked on the Center of Excellence at Resolution. And then as that digital excellence moved in the agencies, I kind of went back to the PhD Center of Excellence, working with, our heads of video investment and our heads of programmatic. And I was leading search practice as well as leading, digital investment across a couple of clients. And that ultimately, it's a little bit rare. I was within Omnicom for whatever that was, 7 years. 4, 5, 6, a little over 7, almost 8 years. Yep. Or almost 7 years. But it was really, I always knew I wanted to go brand side. I had kind of started getting this sort of itch within a year or so, maybe I guess 18 months before I actually made the switch of kind of, when you work in an agency and when you start bouncing around on clients, I think you start seeing everything as like a widget. Right. And it doesn't matter if you're selling if you're selling phones, vacations, it all kind of becomes it's a ROAS and how do we optimize our cost per conversion. And I really wanted to I really set a pretty high vision for myself of what the next step would be, which was to work at a place where I cared about the product that we were giving and the product that we were selling. And I cared about the mission and the stance and the company as a whole. And I probably couldn't have, even if you had asked me to hand pick what that would be, I don't think I could have picked a better fit.
Well, so you hit something there which strikes a chord with me. I started out in the agency side. I was in-house for a good 7 or 8 years, and then now back with my own agency. And it's a little different, but it is similar to what you're saying in that, it's kind of like a widget where, you got a scope of work, you got a task, we got to complete it, do the best we can. But that's why I've always leaned towards longer term partnerships, which is gives you a little bit more validity. But so going back to you, it sounds like you switched from the agency side to the brand side with Cotopaxi. You sound like you started with apparel, and I thought you were always going to be through apparel, but it sounds like you kind of started and now you're back.
Yeah, I kind of went full circle. And not that, I don't know that was planned. It just kind of happened that way. So as so many things like that do. And I think, for, that was, I try to be very agnostic about the sort of what to quote, like the Simon Sinek a little bit. It's like, I didn't necessarily care what we were selling. It was like the why and, and the who that was really, really important to me. When I was sort of making this list, and when I was like, I frequently call it, setting this vision of like what I wanted the next place to be. I wanted it to be, mission driven and about something more than just, the sort of the bottom line. And I had kind of gotten to this point where I felt like I spent a lot of time putting together a good proposal or a good plan. And it could have been, I don't know that there's a metric for this. It could have been the best plan on the planet or best pitch or whatever on the planet.
Yep.
And you walk in and you show it to a client and they go, nah. And you're kind of like, what are you talking about? No. And it's like, no, that's just too different than what we're doing. We're not going to do that. And I had kind of gotten to the point where I was just like, when I was young and maybe wasn't up all night with a toddler or something, I'd be a little bit more passionate about it and be like, what do you mean? No, like, let's talk about this, or I'm going to argue this. And I kind of gotten to the point where I was like, okay, you don't want to do this, fine, whatever, and like, cause like ultimately as an agency, it's like, I've said this before and like gotten bit my tongue on it a bit, but it's like, as an agency, like you kind of, like agencies, it's always important in that relationship is like, you remember how people get paid. Right. And like, an agency, like I'm kind of on a retainer. If you don't like the work, you don't like the work. And I get let go. It's not about how much money you spend or if you, that kind of stuff. It's really just like, do you want to work with me or not? And I was kind of at this point where I was like, man, I just, not that I'm giving up on clients, but I had kind of lost the fight and I wanted to go someplace where I felt really good about like where I would go to war for the things that we were trying to fight for. So, that was kind of, it ended up being apparel, but to me, it was just like, it could have been anything. It could have been, there's a whole list of B Corp products or B Corp companies out there that are about more than just their purpose. And some that aren't even necessarily B Corp, but are aligned to, a more mission driven, less sort of, I don't know what the right term is, less kind of, they're very mission driven. So, it didn't have to be apparel. It just kind of wound up that way.
So inserts Cotopaxi, and you're now been, I think you said a couple months. Tell us a little bit about your position and how that makes you more passionate and not checked out. Because now that you're here now,
yeah, for sure. My position, so I'm the director of growth marketing. I kind of sit uniquely, kind of wedged in between a bunch of teams. I work very closely with our e-commerce team, and growth marketing, really is kind of what it sounds like. We are, ears to the ground on all of the things that you look at when you talk about growth for a company. Customer acquisition costs, lifetime value, average order value, and we are doing it through a lens of sort of digital media. So, whether that's email marketing, something that I didn't realize before I got there was as powerful as it is, was SMS marketing, search social, all the classic search social, video, programmatic, all the things that we can all ramble off and, confuse the non-digital folks with really quickly. Right. And then, some of the other channels that maybe aren't as traditional, affiliates, those kinds of things, but they're all vital to business growth, healthy business growth, and development and growth of the brand. So I oversee all of that. And I work really tightly with a whole bunch of stakeholders within, not too dissimilar to how it would work if, you were an agency working with a large CPG or a large consumer or a large, apparel. If you were working with Nike, right, you'd have multiple stakeholders within Nike around shoes and basketball and soccer. And, we have slightly scaled down, but we work closely with our brand teams and our go-to-market teams, our retail teams, to really develop growth strategies that are healthy to us as a business and make sense, to us as a business. And, ultimately for us, our mission is to end extreme poverty. And that's why we're here. And the means by which we do that is, through the kind of sale of outdoor goods. Through inspiring adventure and motivating people to do good. And then that kind of the vehicle there is the sale of these goods. So that's really like kind of how we level, and like where I come into the conversation a lot is, hey, how do we use search to do these things? How do we use social? How does search social tie together? What are we talking about when we talk about YouTube versus CTV versus OTT?
Well, first, where is the company based? They're in the Northwest, or?
So we're based in Salt Lake City. Okay. We've gone fully remote in the last, before I came on, but I think it's the last year or two. They've been kind of a remote first. So we're spread out. We've got, we've got people in Georgia. I'm up here in Oregon. We've got some people in Seattle and Washington, Tacoma area, and then, Salt Lake, Texas. I'm trying to think what else. If you actually look at our job board, it lists all the states that we're open in. But we are remote first, and then occasionally we get together in Salt Lake for specific meetings or big all hands or whatever.
Right. No, that's obviously the way now. We're the same here, just because the better quality of life for everybody.
And I found that like the talent pool gets bigger, right? When you, like you don't have to, if you're in Seattle and you need somebody that's a graphic designer, programmatic expert, photographer.
Yep.
You can expand that search outside of just Seattle, and all of a sudden, we've got our email manager and our retention loyalty manager sits in LA, and we've got people all over the place.
I got to believe one of your strategies is in and around how do you connect with current generations, our generations, future generations, where they're going to care more, maybe that's not the right word. They're going to care as much about the purpose or the effect that their purchase is going to make because of a social conscious company, et cetera. That's got to be a huge part of I don't know how you tangibly put stuff around that, but that's got to be your buyer, right?
Yeah. And I think what's great is that Cotopaxi is really founded on that principle of impact and sustainability. So we don't and I'm not accusing anybody of this, but we don't have to fake it. Like, we don't have to go out and say, oh, we care about impact and sustainability, and we're going to do this, this, and this. Yeah, because it's trendy, and like we've been making, we've been making apparel or whatever for 50 years in this very traditional way. Now we care about it because the market cares about it. We were founded on a lot of these principles and on the idea of using like business as a force for like social, environmental, and like economic good. So like that's our core. That's what we do. We have director of impact and sustainability who's involved in every decision and every product. And it was eye-opening for me when I first like kind of saw it, because I've sat in that room where that is forced, where someone says we're going to care about the environment,
right?
And then it comes around and it's like, okay, if you want to care about the environment, it's going to cost you X, Y, and Z up front. And the payoff isn't going to be for 10 years. And oh, no, that's not, I'm not taking that hit on the stock price this quarter. Right. Yeah. But because that's our core, that's like where every conversation starts. It starts with our Del Dia line of packs that are, remnant fabric that would otherwise be tossed out, that we bring in and cut and sew into, unique one of a kind packs that, otherwise would have ended up in a landfill, right? Like it's our bread and butter. It's the core of who we are. So like when we talk about how we market that, it's really just like, well, how do we just tell our story? How do we talk about us as us? We don't have to fake anything. We don't have to, and I use the word fake, but sometimes I think a lot of companies do genuinely care, and they're relieved that some of these things have come around.
Yep.
But I think that like for us, it's our natural language, so to speak. Like it's not a second language for us to talk about impacts and sustainability, and driving social good with product.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. So, and that's obviously what attracted you to the brand and the position, because of your most recent experience.
Yeah, and that was what I wanted. That was what I was looking for, is to be able to drive that brand. My wife actually discovered Cotopaxi before I did, when we were in REI a few years ago, and she was like, "This brand's really cool." And it was like I set up alerts, I think, on LinkedIn of one of the companies that I kind of flagged as like, this hits everything I want in a company. They're mission driven. This is their, caring is their sort of first language. And it just happened. Again, it just kind of happened to be Cotopaxi. It could have been a number of others, but
right.
Again, like if you would have asked me to like, I don't think I could have created a company that would have checked all the boxes as well as Cotopaxi has.
Nice. So what's I know you just started there, but what are you most excited about the next 1-2 years at Cotopaxi?
Oh man, there's a ton for us to be excited about. We're growing rapidly. It's been pretty public that we, just recently took on a capital investment. And our CEO Davis has gone on the record to say that we are going to be, the next $1 billion outdoor brand. It's amazing for me, because it hits home back to this idea of like, we helped, I think it was right. I don't think the official number is out yet, but we had a direct impact on close to, if not more than 1 million people living in extreme poverty this year. If we extrapolate that out to
in the US,
we are focused on like Latin America.
Okay.
So if you extrapolate that out, growing your business to be $1 billion business means that like the impact potential is sort of infinite, right? Like that's I don't even know how many times growth that is, but it's a lot, right? Like it's a huge amount of impact that we can have in these markets, and for us, we lean on some research from MIT that kind of goes into the aspects that can have the biggest impact. And one of those aspects, sort of pillars, is really important for me, which is education, something that I'm like really kind of passionate about is like educating, providing, I believe that education should be free across the board. You can use whatever you want to call me for that, but like I think that college should be free. Everything just flat out paid for free, and I think that it starts to have a huge impact and level set some economic disparity and all kinds of different disparity, and that's one of the pillars that we use to sort of help elevate communities is education. So for me, and the growth and like why I'm excited about it is because it aligns with these things that are important to me about providing education to communities in need and elevating those communities and just providing like kind of providing, what's the right word here, like just providing just elevating some of these communities up and bringing them a better quality of life because we can give them these things. So I know that's like kind of there's all kinds of other stuff I think that I'm excited about. Sure. I'm excited to be about, like we are developing, I have the opportunity to sort of be where on the, you mentioned this, and I think some of the clients that I worked with best, we were partners where we had the opportunity to be in the room a little bit more as things were being developed. And now that's kind of where we are. Is like I have the opportunity to work with our product development team to, see how products are being, to see what products are being developed, to lead or work on, brainstorming sessions where we talk about how do we market these new products, not just in media. How do I create the best social plan to sell this new product, but rather how do we create this whole cohesive creative strategy around selling the product? Do we need to go do a photo shoot here? Do we need to talk about this aspect of the product? So personally, that's been a lot of fun for me, is to be more involved in the whole process and really be like a partner in the whole, from top to bottom development. And there's all kinds of stuff I think that I could probably tangent on about why it's exciting. I mean, growth is always exciting. Hiring new people is always exciting. Getting the opportunity to build your team is exciting.
So now when you get the opportunity to work with an agency in your position, now you can be super nice to them and make sure they take care of them.
Man, I don't know. Do you go super nice or I don't know. No, of course we'll be nice. We push them,
but set them up for success. It's kind of nice, having, as it's like myself, I've been on both sides. And so it's you know what to expect, kind of their angle, your angle, and
the smoke and mirrors, the smoke and mirrors too. I'm always, I think, it's like, you gotta make the agency a little bit afraid of you. But not too much. I don't know. I'm just kidding. But I think that'll be the big thing, is it'll be like cutting through I worked on pitches. I know all the right. I know what you say. The number one audience tool to segment and target. And it's like, just shut up and tell me what it really does. Like, come on.
Nice. Cool. So, that's exciting. New job opportunity. I mean, new career. That sounds pretty awesome. And it sounds like you got a little one at home. Do you have one, or do you have multiple children?
Just one. And like, he's making a strong case for being an only child.
Nice. Well, remember, you get two or more, they start to cancel each other out, so it makes it a little bit easier.
I don't know if I'm like a zone defense. I don't know if I could play zone defense with more than two kids. I think I'm a firm stop on two, because we keep it man to man, and
we got three, so we're in the zone.
Every time we have a few friends that are really close friends that have three, and every time we hang out with them, we come home and we're just like, oh my God, that was exhausting. Like I'm already tired. I have a kid. He just started sleeping through the night. And I feel like I'm not a zombie completely. And he was born, it's total side, but he was born, December 2019. So right 4 months before we all got locked down.
Yeah.
So, I have the first, I used to joke that our babies, like the babysitters were the guys and girls on the other side of the Zoom call. And I just beg, look, just let me know if he's doing anything. I'll talk, you tell me. And I turned around one day and he had colored all over his face. And I was like, Elijah, man, come on. You're supposed to tell me when he was painting on himself. But
I know it's kind of you're like in this new position, but my next question really is about kind of what do you see your future career? Where do you want to go? I mean, you still got plenty of decades of work ahead of you.
Don't say it like that.
Unless you plan on retiring early. I think I got an answer for this question, but kind of where are you heading? What do you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, again, like I'm a little bit weird from my generation in that both of my roles actually that I was in previously, I stayed there 7 years. And I didn't really leave. The first role I kind of left after some downsizing, and then, PhD and Omnicom, I probably would have worked there a really long time if I hadn't gotten the perfect opportunity. So I'm not always like someone that jumps ship, especially I feel like at a place like Cotopaxi where like we're growing, and PhD and Resolution were like this too. We're growing so fast. There's always room to reinvent yourself. And there's always room to say, I did this at Resolution where I kind of said like, look, I want to be in a product focused role where I'm taking Excel things that we're doing and turning them into a more product idea. And they're like, yeah, let's do it. And that's like kind of, they've got a shelf view tool and some other tools that like our teams kind of ran with. So like my point is that, it's been a couple months here at Cotopaxi, so I'm definitely not looking for the exits. And I think that there's so much opportunity at a place here that I think I'll figure it out as I go. I think I set this vision, landed on it, and really kind of surprised myself that I was like, okay, wow, I got like everything I expected out of that. So I think for me, it'll take a little bit of reflection, but I think like ultimately it's just continuing to grow, continuing to learn. I'm learning e-com side and I'm learning some of the brand sides more than like I've ever learned before. Like I always had an idea, and some of the last kind of words of wisdom that Josh Palau gave me before I left PhD was like, you got to know numbers. And I was like, I know numbers, Josh. And he was like, no, you got to really know numbers. And I was like, all right. And then I got over here and it's like, okay, well, this is your CAC and this is your LTV. And I was like, oh shit, I don't know any of this. So, I think there's a lot for me to learn still. And I think that the growth at Cotopaxi is more than ripe to be settled in for the long term. And I think as long as I have the opportunity to kind of lead and develop and create new, then I'm in a good spot. So those are kind of the things that I'm, the day that I can't do those things is maybe the day that I start thinking about a change. But that's it for now. For the future, I don't have anything else, nothing else planned at the moment. Maybe go skiing this weekend.
There you go.
That's it.
Awesome. Well, Eric, I appreciate you coming on and telling a little bit of your story and kind of why you're doing everything. Super interesting to hear what you're doing and learn more about Cotopaxi. And yeah, I enjoyed talking with you. So thanks again for your time.
Yeah, thanks, man. I had a ton of fun. So awesome. Hopefully one of these days we'll meet in the middle at Mount Hood or something, go skiing or snowboarding or whatever we want to do.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Mountain biking in Mount Hood is my preferred. So get the downhills out and we'll go.
Nice. Awesome. Thanks, Eric.
Awesome. Thank you.